Hold on. I forgot to record. Let's hear that again. What was your big one from last week? I need that on documentation.
I feel the best I ever have in my entire life.
What a champ. That's so cool.
Awesome.
That's literally stuff like that is the whole reason I do this. Like, just hearing people improve the quality of life is the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
And it never gets old.
What do you think has made the biggest difference, Julian?
Really attempting to get my diet in check. It was so out of whack for, my whole life. I didn't realize how out of whack it was until I realized how hard it is to get on a proper diet.
Yeah. Well, so like, had you ever logged I assume you're logging your food?
Yes, I have logged every meal since I started.
So do you think that made the biggest change, or what do you think has made the, like, was that super revealing, or what was your biggest surprise?
Basically, I was surprised how hard it is to get that much protein in on a day, realizing that I was probably getting by on 20, 30 grams a day a lot of times, just because I wasn't eating protein-rich food.
No.
The most.
And then, yeah, no, it super is. And then, were you doing resistance training before that at all, or had you?
No, this is my first time completely.
Oh yeah. So you're gonna change a ton. You're gonna change a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you sound relatively young. How old are you?
I am 30.
You sound younger than 30, so mazel tov there. But okay, but the good news is you have time-wise you're okay, but you have minimum 5 years of prime anabolic activity left, so you can do it. I can complete 180 from there, man.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
What do I do? I am currently in finances.
Finances. All right.
So, yeah.
So do you sit down most of the day then?
Yeah. Yes, I'm sitting down all day long.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
But, well, cool. Well, what we do typically is we'll give it about another minute, and then Noah and I are going to bust out some info on intermittent fasting, some do's and don'ts, and then we'll do Q&A. And if there are any other issues people are struggling with, just write it down or raise your hand, and we can stop and discuss it. So, Noah, anything before we dive in?
No, that's pretty good. I'm ready for it. I love me some intermittent fasting sessions.
Okay, so the essentially the question, the topic for tonight, and the question we're going to be hitting on is basically, because I am an advocate of intermittent fasting for certain individuals given a certain context, predominantly those who are either pre-diabetic type 2 or are diabetic type 2. And there's some caveats, and sometimes I'll recommend it for other populations, but for the most part, that's the best. But a question I get, regardless, whether it's a client or someone just reaching out, is can I eat whatever I want when I'm following intermittent fasting to lose weight? And they may not say it that way, but that's what they mean. Okay. And so Noah and I are going to go through, I think we came up with at least 5 reasons. We'll probably stumble on a couple more on why the answer to that unequivocally is no. Noah, would you like to take first at bat?
Yeah. I mean,
all right, go ahead.
Biggest one is eating whatever you want while you're intermittent fasting. You'd be very surprised how quickly you can fill up your calories or go over calories. And people, Kellen put out a really good point the other day where people are like, oh, it's so hard to plan ahead for meals. And he's like, but when they have a cheat day, they're like, oh, I'm going to start and I'm going to get this, my favorite breakfast.
Super methodical.
Yeah. They're like, and then I'm going to hit up my lunch, and then between, like, I know there's this other place I love, it's in between. So I'm going to get like a smoothie from there, and I'll get my dinner, and I'm going to have like my favorite dessert. But you can absolutely destroy. So like many people can be like, let's say 1,800 calories. If you go to like Buffalo Wild Wings and get like an order of like 16 boneless wings, side of fries, some ranch to dip it in, you're easily way above that. And so if you're eating whatever you want within that time frame, that's still going to be way over calories, because what's going to cause you to lose weight, maintain weight, or gain weight at the end of the day will be total calories. There will be some minor effects from the intermittent fasting that can influence that, but at the end of the day, that's going to be what affects it most. And so if you're just shoveling whatever's in your face all the time, you're going to be deficient in all sorts of micronutrients. B, you're going to be going way over calories and still probably gaining weight. And then C, there's going to be all this sort of stuff out of whack. So like insulin resistance can develop if you're still having all terrible sorts of straight sugar diets. You're not going to be hitting protein, so maintaining muscle mass or building muscle mass will be difficult. It's just quality food still matters, and especially if you're looking to lose weight.
Yeah. And Noah nailed it. I would just add on to that. Basically, the main reason intermittent fasting can work for some people is because it just reduces how many calories they consume by shortening the window that they typically eat. And so it works best for people who are super busy and methodical, and they're going to eat the same amount of food at each meal, but they're just eliminating a meal and a couple snacks. But the warning to that, though, kind of goes into the second thing, is the big danger when people do intermittent fasting and they aren't necessarily type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic is they'll lose the weight. If this is assuming they're in a calorie and they're losing the weight, if you're not doing resistance training, you're not getting 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass, what happens is your body fat virtually stays the same, even though you're losing weight. So what that means is you're becoming skinny fat, which is not ideal. So you're losing muscle mass, your metabolism's coming down, you're getting weaker, and you're like on the scale, you're super, super happy. But when you take your shirt off and you look in the mirror, you're like, oh no, I still look loose and I still look flabby. What's wrong? And typically what's wrong is because your window is so short, okay, and you're in a caloric deficit, it's not impossible, but it is for most people, like Julian was saying, I assume he's probably not doing fasting. It's hard to get in a gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. For most females, that's around 120. For most guys, it's around 120, 150, 180 sometimes. So then when you shorten that window for general population, you're like, okay, I need you to eat 120 grams of protein in a 6-hour window or whatever. Super, super, super hard. Agreed.
I mean, even Julian hit me up, was that yesterday, day before? He's like, dude, I'm full. Like, I can't eat enough and that's within eating, within a 12-hour range. So imagine condensing that into like half the time. It's going to be much harder for most people.
But here's the thing, though, too, Julian. And I talked to a lady that I trained named Lee Davis, and she lost. I think she was 156, and now she's 120. And she did that in the course of, I think, 4 months or 5 months. I forget. But and she was a unique circumstance. I actually had her do intermittent fasting, but that's not really. It's kind of intertwined in there. But now what we're doing is I'm bulking her up in the sense where she's going to stay at 120, but I increased her calories to 1,650. Before, she was consuming around 1,000, 1,200, and she was getting maybe 60, 70 grams of protein. I was like, okay, she got super bought in. She knows, likes, and trusts me now. And I'm like, okay, and she doesn't really like eating meat that much. But I was like, you got to trust me. We're going to do this. So here's the thing. After 2 weeks of doing that, her arm development has dramatically changed. She's like, Kellen, I was sitting there on my like sofa like this or whatever, and she's like, oh, my arms. And that's just from increasing her protein. Plus, here's the other cool thing. When she first started eating all that protein, she's like, I can't eat all this. It's just too much. Now her metabolism has started to speed up because she's fueling her body better. And she's like, I can't believe it, but I'm like hungry all the time. And that's good, because if you're hungry, that's a sign that you're actually burning fat as fuel. If you're never hungry, chances are you're not in a caloric deficit. So not only is she eating exponentially more calories, but she's building muscle mass and her metabolism is way higher, which is a great place to be when you're trying to get leaner. But anyway, so now we'll hit on reason number 3. Can I eat whatever I want when following intermittent fasting trying to lose weight? So reason number 3, Noah, breakdown kind of like why are we hit on you need 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Why do we need that? What are like a couple reasons?
Oh, to hit the protein? Gotcha. Yeah. So 1, helps maintain plenty of muscle mass, because effectively what you're doing when you're weightlifting is you're creating micro tears in the muscle fibers, and you need material in order to rebuild that. On top of that, it's also going to, both the weightlifting and the consuming the protein helps signal muscle protein synthesis because your body's not going to be prone towards building it if it doesn't have the material. So when you say, hey, we have the material, also we have the need for it because we're actually breaking it down, that's what's going to actually cause the development of the muscle. On top of that, it also helps increase satiety. And so that's going to help you keep those calories under, as we were talking about. Many of our clients experience, the first thing that blows people's mind is, yo, I was having 20 grams of protein. Like, that's insane. And then you go up to like 100, 120, and you're like really methodical about it. You're like, oh my gosh, like each meal actually leaves me feeling full. So it's two very good portions right there. But again, it's most important for the maintaining and building muscle mass. And people tend to really underestimate the effectiveness of that. Kind of like what Kellen's saying, because she was floating around 50, 60, that's actually not too bad for a typical female. But once you get it up to like the quote unquote optimal levels, that's where you're like, oh, dang, okay, like we're doing something here.
Especially in conjunction with resistance training. Like if you're not doing resistance training, it's still going to be helpful because it's going to increase your metabolism. But if you in conjunction with resistance training, it's a game changer. And then, I mean, Noah, you were vegetarian or vegan for a while. So honestly, I don't know how this was, if there was any difference for you, but I've trained clients who are vegan and vegetarian and whatnot, which is fine. Typically it's a moral issue, which is, I totally respect and get, but typically they struggle to get optimal amounts of protein because you have to be so much more diligent without going over your calories. But what's interesting is I'm not a huge advocate of branched chain amino acids as a supplement. However, for vegans or vegetarians, when I would give it to them and when they did it, it's like you put them on steroids for a pinprick in time because their body, like, just, I guess, wasn't used to getting it. Like, can you talk to that at all? I just thought of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was vegan for a few years, and Jan, I know, is largely plant-based. Don't worry, I'm going to give you a fair shake here, Jan. And it was a win-win of many things. One, I noticed my digestion was a lot better when I was on it. Two, the moral is definitely a big bonus. And so, that helps you feel better. And then three, a lot of the way we process a lot of the foods that are non-vegan are pretty crappy for us right now, like the factory farms. Stuff like, I mean, if you see, there's actually an allowed parts per million of pus and blood that goes into milk because the dairy cows are literally, they have to repeatedly rape them to get them pregnant because they only give milk while they're pregnant. And so the only way to get them to continuously give it is to continuously inseminate them. Terrible. And so then their udders literally get to the point where they're just like pussy and like not boily, blistery, like all this sort of stuff. And that can get into the milk. So that's very different than like a natural, like local farm where it's just like, oh, like this cow is just naturally producing milk. Let me grab like one bucket for me and my family. It's like as you get to the more and more extremes where we're trying to produce like the entire continent, things like that tend to get worse. And so also as well, like they steal their young from them, which causes a ton of stress hormones, and that can actually go into the milk and affect the hormones of the person having it. So there are some reasons here and there that are very beneficial. One thing people bring up too is that B12 deficiency is a problem with the diet as well. The argument for that a lot of vegans or vegetarians would use is that used to be naturally occurring in things like streams or grasslands, like pretty much where animals would usually eat and drink. But with the pesticides and everything we use, it's no longer naturally occurring in those fields. So we now have to supplement the animals we eat with B12, and then eat them. And so like, well, we should cut out the middleman and just supplement the B12 ourselves. But that's a whole aside for that. What I found was originally the data was saying something along the lines of, hey, if you consume extra protein, it should compensate for them being less complete. So what I mean by a complete protein is that protein's built up by amino acids. And some of them your body can produce. Some of them are essential, meaning you have to have them in your diet. And so vegan sources of protein tend to be far less complete. And so they used to think, okay, well, so long as you get enough of this one, which I won't go into more detail unless you guys are interested in that, that should compensate for the rest of them because that'll be the most important one. And so if you just eat enough protein, it'll get you there. But then what they found later on, another study came out where they're like, hey, you need all of them in equal proportion for them to be able to be properly metabolized, the bioavailability to be there for you to properly utilize them. So you couldn't overcompensate for the lower quality protein, quote unquote. I know that sounds mean to say it like that, but that's the scientific term for it. You can't overcompensate by just eating more protein. And so what you'll find is when you give branching amino acids to like a vegan or vegetarian, you're giving them that complete amino acid profile that they're missing in their diet. So they'll see the beneficial effects of being able to actually properly utilize, all of the amino acids that they have access to, versus someone who's usually like on an omnivorous diet and still getting enough protein. They'll probably already have enough of those that they don't need the extra branched chain amino acids. And also some of them, be careful, just put in such a low dose. It's like 2 grams of protein. That's not even like useful. You like some of them just are not even useful in that regard and are just there for like a market. But yeah, so if you get ones with a proper dose and actual good amino acid profile, if you give it to someone who's missing that, you'll see great rewards.
Yeah. Because I did it a couple times, and it was like gave it to them, and they tried it, and it was a game changer. Game changer. But anyway, so I guess cool. Let's get back on topic though. So basically, why do you need 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass? Or is 1 to help maintain your muscle mass, to support your healthy metabolism, and 3 to reduce hunger and cravings. This is the short answer. And then the fourth reason is, can I eat whatever I want when following intermittent fasting? The answer is no. Is typically people use. Yeah, I think stereotyping. A lot of people say, well, I ate within my window, so it's okay, as they eat a half a gallon or a quart of ice cream and maybe a donut. But they use it, basically what I'm saying is they use it as an excuse to eat crap, okay? And so they consume high amounts of sugar, saturated fat, processed foods. And obviously, when you eat those kind of foods, they're addictive. They make you want to eat more. Calorically, they're super high. They're not really good. They cause inflammation, sometimes even insulin resistance. It slows down your metabolism. So maybe at the very beginning, they can get away with eating that way for a pinprick in time, just because it changes how many maybe total calories they consume a little bit. But over the long run, it's just an excuse and people just gain the weight. So the answer is no, because most people use the excuse junk food. Do you have any side notes on that, Noah?
Yes, I'll say just to cover our butts. I love that. On a technicality, you can't eat whatever you want and lose weight. There was a doctor who did a study on himself. Yeah, just
Twinkies, right?
Yeah. All he ate was Twinkies, but he ate within a calorie deficit. So eating only Twinkies, this man still managed to lose weight. The problem was his blood sugar levels were absolutely insane. He wasn't maintaining any of his muscle mass. He's probably losing only muscle mass and almost no fat. And then also he was just starving the whole time because there was literally nothing sending signals to his body that he was full. There was no protein, there was no fiber, there was no high volume in the foods, no naturally occurring fats. And so you'll find it miserable, and you'll still you won't lose the weight that you want. So you'll technically get quote unquote fatter while losing the weight. And so it's not sustainable, it's not enjoyable, and it's not as healthy for you. You're going to miss out on a ton of micronutrients as well from fruits and veggies and protein sources that you'll need too. So it is technically possible, but it is not advisable. And that's why you'll see sometimes where I'll be coaching clients and like, well, I'm within my macros and my calories are good. Like, why does it matter that I went to McDonald's? I'm like, every once in a while it's fine, but like long term, this is going to be causing all those detrimental effects that I was talking about, and it'll be more difficult for you. So yeah, that's one aside.
Your cravings will be off the chain. Is really the bigger issue, because you're going to be But anyway, all right. So that was kind of our take on intermittent fasting, and kind of no, you can't eat whatever you want, because that is a common question we get. That being said, questions on anything and everything, intermittent fasting or just in general? Anybody?
Your pressure. Also, I love the water bottle, Julian. Staying hydrated. Let's go. I used to have one like that. Jan, you want advocate for any plant-based stuff? Here for you.
No, I've been reading up on protein. I know I've been deficient per se. So I've been watching a lot of videos over this past weekend. And Kellen, I'm glad you said something about hunger, because the last 2 days I have been starving. And so maybe since I've upped my protein a little bit, maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's super. It's the same thing that's happened with Lee like 2 weeks ago or whatever. Typically, it's like it seems like it's 3 or 4 days. They're like, oh my word, I'm stuffed. I can't do this. Then all of a sudden, it's like a switch turns on, and it's thinking it's your body. I don't know if your body adapts or what happens, but typically, then it's like a different sport almost. It's really good. That's awesome. But Jan, if you're watching videos and stuff, I would watch. You probably haven't heard of him, and Noah, maybe you can send her like a Google link or something. Layne Norton does he goes through. There's a popular documentary called Gamechanger that came out on Netflix a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I watched it this weekend.
Yeah. So Layne Norton he's a PhD in nutrition. And he goes through and he breaks down all those studies and explains how essentially they twisted the science, and he goes through all of it and he breaks it down, and he supports it with meta-analysis versus just individual studies. And I don't know if you know the difference between a study and a meta-analysis, but he does a really good job of going through it and just being like, this is what this study shows, this is valid, but this is why it's not the complete data. And then he goes over a meta-analysis. I would suggest you watch that too. Because ever since that film hurt a lot of people who don't have moral issues with consuming protein or meat sources. Like if you have a moral issue eating meat, then don't do it. But a lot of people thought this is physically killing me and hurting me and making me less healthy, and that's a huge misconception. And he does a very good job of going through that and explaining it without being biased and without, like, a lot of people go through it and they don't do a good job of representing the other side. And I thought he did it fairly, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check him out.
Did you say that a link to something that Noah has?
I got you.
No, I don't have the link. I didn't want to look on YouTube. Noah's the YouTube looker-upper genius guy. See, boom, it's already there. It's already there. I'm talking about.
This wasn't planned.
Yeah.
So did you?
No, definitely wasn't.
Yeah.
If your calories, if you have 1,400 calories and you do intermittent fasting, do you eat those 1,400 calories during your eating window? You just don't eat them. You just don't eat outside of that window.
Correct. Yeah.
So, yeah, are you talking for someone like you, Laura?
Yeah, I just didn't. I couldn't
Like
remember.
a Greek goddess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we get those. They
Boom.
you got 6-pack abs. But yeah, so for you do, Laura. But anyway, so if you were gonna do you want to do intermittent fasting? Or are you just curious about it?
If you have a certain number of calories that you want to eat in a day, do you during your window, you make sure you get your protein, or are you trying to get all of your calories just in that window? If you were just
the answer is yes. So let's say you were doing intermittent fasting, and let's say your goal was to lose weight, and you have 1,400 calories. Then so you're controlling your insulin. So insulin can be a big part of losing weight, especially if you're pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, right? And we're using the fasting as a window to control the insulin. So yes, you'd still want to hit your protein number, and then you're going to want to hit whatever your caloric deficit number is. In a perfect scenario, you want that as high as possible to still get the biggest effect. Because what happens for a lot of people is they drop their calories super, super low because they want faster results, which works at the beginning, but long term, when you start too low, once you plateau, where are you going to go? That's the problem, and that's where a reverse diet needs to come into. We've talked about that before, but that's where when you've kind of hit rock bottom and how much you can restrict, you need to do a reverse diet back up. Know anything else on that I missed or you think of?
I mean, yeah, an easy way of summarizing it is that when people ask me, like, does meal timing matter? I say, I mean, kind of, but what matters most is total amount of calories and macronutrients consumed. So in the same way that, like, if someone says, hey, I ate right before bed, does that mean I'm going to get fat? I'm like, well, what'd you have? And also, like, what were your total calories for the day? Because if you're like that scientist and you ate a Twinkie right before bed, you'd assume you'd gain weight. But if you only had 800 calories worth of Twinkies the whole day, you're still going to be losing weight. And so your total calories still matter the most out of everything. what'll happen is, like Kellen mentioned, is it actually helps regulate your insulin. So to put it the best I can, is your body's more predisposed to wanting to lose the weight. Now that doesn't mean that magically you're going to consume more calories or fewer calories or burn. So you're still going to stay within the same range, because again, the timing matters less than the overall quantity that you're consuming. So that kind of plays in the same role as people asking about meal timing. Another thing too is that don't ever think that this is us saying, hey, this is ideal for everyone. Everyone should do this.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And so Dr. Jason Fung, who did that whole, I sent a link to his speech, the other one. He's awesome. The way he put it, he's like, I want to consider this like a medical intervention. Yeah, exactly. And he does
I've read like 5 books.
right, dude. Well, and oh my gosh, the speech I sent, it's like 1 hour, and it goes through, his books are pretty much a summary of his findings in the studies, and his speech is like a summary of his books. So it's like the most dense and useful and practical application of all his like 20, 30 years of study, however long he's been doing it, I've ever seen. So it's amazing. So if anyone wants that link, feel free to text me in the app or anything. But what he says, he's like, I describe it as like an option as a medical intervention. So it's like something that can be used that can help, but it's not like a one size fits all perfect for everyone. Because I find some people who are like, oh, I love it because I don't have to think about eating all day. Like I find that I don't feel like sluggish throughout the day because I only have like one meal and I'm pretty well digested. Other people do really well with like the way it affects like their ghrelin. And so like it helps them fix the relationship with food, which Kellen talks about. It's kind of like him. Yeah.
100%.
And other people, they're like, yo, if I don't have food throughout the day, I feel myself crashing. I feel lethargic. Like I go crazy. And when I do have that window, I end up just eating whatever I want because I have no self-control. And so one of two things can happen. One, know your personality type, and maybe it's not a good long-term solution to you. Or two, you probably closed your window too fast. So maybe go from, instead of like eating 12 hours throughout the day, instead of skipping down to like 6 or 4, go to like 12 to like 11, 10, 9, 8. A more gradual approach would be much better.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with that. Slower is faster. So like when I have clients who do intermittent fasting, typically what that looks like, first 2 weeks is basically I tell them to stop snacking, just eat 3 meals. So I don't even really give them a window, just stop snacking. You get 3 meals, that's it. And then from there, after about a month, we take away 1 meal, and then we kind of progress depending on how much they need. And some people who are significantly overweight and they like on the danger of dying if they don't change their weight, I'll even have them do 24-hour fasts, essentially. So like a dinner to dinner. And then they'll do that 2 up to 3 times a week. But like what Noah said, what really helped me when I was experimenting with fasting, when I did it for about 4 or 5 months, is I am so much like I was 308 pounds back in the day. Offensive lineman, fat, strong, that guy. And I could eat even when I was full, no problem. If I was bored, I would eat. And what fasting did, right, wrong, or indifferent, it really made it so that I had a lot more control over my cravings, which I'd never anticipated. But since I've done that, I can easily say no to things where before I felt powerless, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. And part of that is just feeling comfortable with hunger. Like,
yeah, being comfortable with hunger, but also I learned what like being full felt like. Like before, I wasn't satisfied until I felt stuffed. And I know that seems like I didn't know that was weird. Like I couldn't imagine people who left food on their plate. Are you kidding me? What are you going to do with it? You're going to throw it? Like a foreign concept to me. And so I would eat until I was stuffed. And that was what made me content. I didn't feel like I had eaten until that had happened. And when you do fasting, like you learn to be content being hungry. Okay. At least I did. And then you learn to say no because, it's just a yes or no thing. And then when you do eat again, because your stomach shrinks or I don't know what happens there. Like I could eat like half as much and be like, okay, I'm good. Like I need to stop, which was great.
mm-hmm.
But
yeah. And on top of that,
cool.
too, even just removing snacking in general is going to help, because if you give yourself time for snacks or allow snacks, the stuff you're going to have as a snack by nature has to be readily prepared, highly palatable, easy to have. It's like no one says, "Oh, I had chicken breast as a snack." It's like, no, you probably grabbed chips, you probably grabbed like some dried craisins that are loaded with sugar, you grabbed candy, you grabbed crackers, anything. So when you put it in distinct meals, that's a very powerful thing too, where you're like, no, I'm going to be very diligent about this. Because they've done studies in people who just cut out snacking that accounts for like 300 to 1,000 extra calories easily. And so that one change right there does so much. What'd you say?
Which is crazy.
So crazy.
And people typically don't think about it or see it. But so Julian, how many, just out of curiosity, how many calories do you think you were consuming beforehand, before you started documenting it? Like if you were to guess.
I would say what's weird is there was really no consistency. There was days I bet it would be 2,500 and days where it was 1,500 because I snacked a lot. I snacked a lot in the evening. I snacked a lot during the day at work. And it was always chips and crackers and cookies and very easy to grab foods, you know? So there was days it would probably be 2,500 at least, you know?
Yeah.
And I did no tracking, so I have no idea, but at least at times, yeah.
Yeah. Curious. Huh. And then now what is your, like, what was a typical day before you started look like?
What's that?
What would a typical day of eating look like for you before you started?
A bowl of cereal and milk in the morning, not good cereal, like trashy cereal.
What kind of cereal?
Either mini wheats or cinnamon toast crunch, things like that, you know, nothing good. Lunch, usually frozen fries and grilled cheese, something like that. And dinner, I usually get something out, you know, like pizza or fast food. And I wouldn't oftentimes eat all my food either, because I would be snacking so much throughout the day. I never really was hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. We prevent hunger.
Yeah. I have felt over the last week, my relationship with food rapidly changing, which was good, you know, and it needed to.
So now what do you eat, or what's a typical day? I know it's only been a week or whatever, but what's it look like now?
A lot of protein shakes to try to meet the protein values.
That's so normal.
A lot of chicken, a lot of rice, a lot of eggs, you know, while I try to get myself back into meal prepping. You know, just right now, just really trying to meet the macros, you know, while I try to find ways to eat healthier.
Mm-hmm. What are your macros? What do you set at?
1,700 calories, 170 grams of carbs, 130 grams protein.
Cool beans.
I currently weigh about 155.
155. How tall are you?
About 5'8", 5'9".
All right. Cool. Awesome. So you probably, fingers crossed, you probably don't need to lose a ton of weight so much more and just put on some lean body mass. Yeah. Because your weight, I think, is good. We just need to fill it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Get some.
Yeah, I mentioned that to him too, and that's why I'm glad Julian's so chill. He's like, yeah, that makes sense. Where I'm like, hey, we're more on like a recomp versus like a weight loss thing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hit float around maintenance calories and just be hitting our protein, weightlifting, and you'll just make sure. And this is to everyone, because I know no one likes to do it. Take pictures, because especially if you don't have a ton of weight to lose and there's not a number to go on the scale, you're gonna feel like you're going nowhere. But track the weight that you're lifting so you can see that you're getting stronger, and take pictures so you can see the difference. Because, dude, I literally would like do like 6 months of like really hard workouts, like killing it, and I'd be like, wow, I don't see a difference at all. And I see a picture of myself like 6-7 months ago. I'm like, okay, I do see a difference. Like, that's way better than I thought. Cool. Because you see yourself every day, so you get acclimated to the change. So if you haven't already, you did take pictures, Julian. Yeah, you're a champ.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And as always as well, for our clients in particular, the app asks you to have them. If there's ever like shirtless ones or ones with more revealing clothing, like take those for yourself, because obviously if you're doing like a recomp, seeing the difference, it's going to be weird to share those, but take them for yourself. And then when you're jacked later, you won't be as afraid to share those, to be like, yo, look at how far I've come. But it's okay to not want to share them in the moment. And then
so I just did this for like a post the other day, and my point is like, so when you lose, like I was 230 in the first one, and I'm getting a little bit leaner slowly. That's only 3 weeks. That's it. And it's only 6 pounds. And I mean, like, I know it's nuanced, but like my arms look bigger. My chest is thicker, and it's what it is. It take pictures is the moral of the story. Because if I were just to say I only lost like 6 pounds, that doesn't seem like it accomplished much. But looking at the pictures, it tells a difference. Like, look at my neck compared to the 230 to 223. It's like not even the same, getting all yoked. But anyway, that was the point of take pictures. It makes it because especially but like with Julian, like if you've never done resistance training, like 3-4 months from now, like you're going to be a different person in a good way. Like, because you're going to get all these like guys in particular, you'll get these newbie gains and ride that as long as you can. Sometimes it'll last even 6 months. And then after that, it unfortunately gets significantly harder to continually get bigger. But the first like 4 to 6 months, like you get stronger just looking at a weight. And that's when everything changes. So really, like if you capitalize that with the nutrition, it'll be awesome. So like what I did, I started when I was like 12 or 13. I got addicted early, but my nutrition was crap. So I didn't get nearly as much benefit. So if you do the resistance training and the protein all at the same time at the beginning, it'll be stupid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which is good. But cool. All right. Anybody else have any questions or things you want us to hit on?
Things you want to brag about? Excuse me. And this will be, people are asking questions for you. This will be sent out as well. I'm recording this for people who didn't get to see the full thing.
Yeah, it'll be available in the group, and then Noah can probably share it to the clients on the app too.
No. 55.
Cool.
Acaba de cumplir 40.
Ooh.
Porque lo dijo el otro día. La tipa está diciendo, sí, no sé, diciendo que está muy bien. Y él dijo,
You can hit the mute button, Noah, I think.
Andrew, if you have a question, no.
But Laura, how are you doing on your? I know we talked. I think it was on last Tuesday on your protein journey.
Oh, yeah. I think I worked it out, and then I guess Noah, you said I'm going up to 1475. It's not on my Fitness Pal today, so.
Oh right, sorry, I forgot you're still on my Fitness Pal because I can update our app for you, so I did it there, but I can't update my Fitness Pal for you.
Yeah, it still says 1400 in the app too.
Let me double check here.
They talk to each other, and it changes my Fitness Pal.
Oh, I have not seen that. That's awesome. Because that happens very rarely for me. Or I guess maybe I just don't hear about the times where it does happen because I don't hear about it. But I only hear about it when it doesn't.
It doesn't.
That's probably what it is. But Laura's killing it. She was like, "No, I'm so worried, like gaining all this weight," and then she was still like down half a pound. I'm like, Laura.
I know. Well, he's a little bit today. So it's
All right,
creepy. Not.
It's muscle mass, Laura. Like that's what you need to take pictures. Is what you need to do because you're jacked.
Mm-hmm.
We need to add my body stuff back in.
Oh, because of your tendonitis, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't. It's time to add it back in. I go see Tyler tomorrow.
Let's go.
After 3 weeks, so just to see if everything. It is better every once in a while. I feel it, but it's never a sharp pain.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll come back tonight. If it ends up coming back or anything, let me know and I'll take him out. But I hate to do this, Laura, but I have to defend my honor. Screen sharing.
Okay.
I see the calorie goal 1475.
Oh, I remembered seeing that. Then
What happens too is if I change it during like one day, like let's say I changed it, I forget what day it was. It's when we were texting.
Yeah.
It won't show up until the next day.
Okay, maybe that's what.
Yeah.
But I could warn this. Maybe it doesn't talk to my Fitness Pal then.
Yeah, bummer.
I've never had that happen.
It won't hang up if I look at my Fitness Pal, will it? Will it disconnect me?
Should be fine. Your video might come off, but other than that, you'll be fine.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go look.
Fingers crossed, everyone. yeah, for most of our clients, they log through the Just You Fitness app now, so it shouldn't apply to you. But if you are logging on
Do
MyFitnessPal,
they?
we can change it.
Yeah, mine still says 1475, but let me go look at the Trainerized one.
Nice.
Stop. I just ate chicken with goat cheese and spinach on top of it, and I have a begging dog at my feet.
Nice. I'm jealous. I always want a begging dog at my feet.
I know. Well, yeah, I don't know where. Oh, right. It would be on my
Goals.
Mhm.
Are you looking to see? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there it is. And you know what? I think it just I didn't see it this morning. So you're right. It's all changed for today, but it didn't translate to MyFitnessPal. So do you adjust that, or do I go in and adjust it?
We can't adjust it in MyFitnessPal. You'll have to.
Okay.
What I can do, Laura, is I'll record a quick video recording of me doing it on my phone to show you where to go to change it.
Okay.
Perfect. Good question.
All right.
Hey,
I know I was looking for those. I was like 75 more calories.
There you go. Everybody wins. So Kellen, this came up previously that we didn't get to come back to because we were talking about hitting protein for the day and people's typical meals. I'm just curious. This is kind of a leading question because I know the answer, but do you find there's a meal that people particularly struggle with to hit protein in? And if so, what advice do you typically give for it?
Oh yeah, by far breakfast. Most people struggle the most when it comes to getting their protein for breakfast. And so what I personally do, I find doesn't help a ton of people because they think it's kind of nasty, but I'm going to tell you what I do, and then I'll give you some better hits. And then Noah, can you share the smoothie resource and then the protein breakfast one that we made whenever go? But anyway, so what I personally do is when my wife or myself cook dinner, we'll just make a double portion. And what I had for dinner, I have for breakfast. So I'll eat rice and a chicken breast, piece of steak, whatever there is. I might add an egg or two to it if I froze. So that's one thing to do. Super simple, super easy. You just make a double portion, save it for breakfast, and eat it. I like that. I think it's great. The other thing I do is I will do the apron meals from Publix. I don't know if you've heard of those. I know other people have. But Julian, they're like $7.50 for 400 to 550 calories, and they have about 40 to 50 grams of protein. So it takes like 40 minutes to cook, typically, bake. So you just take the thing off, throw it in the oven, let them bake. And I had Monterey chicken with like this corn salsa thing this morning, and it was delicious with half a cup of rice. Something that is more breakfast that is delicious that you can do is you can make protein pancakes. And there's a couple different ways to do this. So if I'm making it for my kids and I want them to eat it, I'll get the normal Bisquick powder, okay? And you do a cup of that, and then you do 2 scoops of protein powder and whisk it together before it's wet. That way it's like 50 grams of protein in with the normal pancake. And then if you use skim milk, it adds even more protein. So you can have and you granted, these are like kind of robust pancakes, but you can have like a pancake that's 25 grams and it's delicious. And then for them, you guys don't do this unless you absolutely have to. And then you can even put in like a teaspoon or a teaspoon, the small ones, 1 or 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and whisk that in as well, and it makes it sweeter for the kids. And they kill it, and they get tons of protein. Now, if I do it for myself, I'll use Kodiak powder, the Kodiak protein mix, but I will still put in a scoop of whey protein in there and whisk it dry beforehand. And then it's like, sorry, what?
Like vanilla protein powder? Or
no, that's nasty, Laura. I don't buy vanilla protein powder. I mean, I'm old school. When protein powder first came out, it was like chalk, and they tried to make all these. So I do not trust anything unless it says chocolate, because even then it was nasty. But at least I could stomach chocolate. But it's so gross. But I don't do any of that stuff. So I've been burned way too many times, and I had to like force feed myself strawberry, or they had this garbage that was like chocolate peanut butter. It tastes like Reese's. Bull crap, it does. And I had anyway. So don't do it. I don't do that. Chocolate, just get chocolate. So you get the dry, mix it in with the powder, and then just mix it as is and bake it. And then here's the thing though, because you put the protein powder in there, it's going to be a little bit thicker because of, I'm not a chef, but I have noticed it's a thicker pancake. So you want it on a lower temp than you typically would bake a pancake on, so that it doesn't burn and then is gooey in the middle. So boom, do it, flip it, and then I'll put peanut butter on it, and then either some jelly or some sugar-free maple syrup, and it's stinking to die for. And then lastly, I also like Kodiak. The brand has protein oatmeal that you can buy. I think it's 14 or 16 grams, and it's 220 calories. So I typically have about 500 calories for breakfast. So I'll do 2 of those, and that's almost 30 grams of protein. If you do it with milk, it's 34, I believe, or 30. I forget exactly. And then 1 or 2 eggs, and boom, you're at 40 grams without even trying. But 9 times out of 10, what I do is I just eat dinner again for breakfast. And then Noah shared in the link. If you click on that Google Drive, it's going to take you to the. Is this the protein? Yeah, the protein breakfast recipes. So there's a whole bunch, and you can flip through that. Save the link. And I go through all kinds of different ways that you can get protein for breakfast.
I've made a few of
So
those.
Sorry, what?
Oh, I said I've made a few of those. I like them all that I've tried out of that.
Oh, from that resource. What's your favorite?
The first one that came to mind was the hash brown something that has bacon on it.
Yeah.
Oh.
What?
Hard to turn that down.
I'm gonna look at it. It's been a while since I've seen this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't made it in a while, but I made it for a while.
Oh yeah. One of the things I hate too is that, so part of the reason too is that, at least in America, so much of our breakfast has just been pushed as just like sugary straight carb type stuff, like muffins, normal pancakes, even freaking like it's everything. Oh, it's so frustrating. And so cereals, which are just pretty much just like straight sugar, and then all that sort of stuff. So what I find, a lot of people, they first turn to eggs or bacon, which is fine. But if you're still cutting close
Fry and fat.
Yeah, so it's gonna be very calorie dense because gonna be very fat dense. So what you can do is, instead of having like, let's say 3 or 4 eggs, you can have like an egg and then like a cup or 2 of like egg whites. That'll keep calories quite low, protein quite high. And then also skipping like the toast that you're adding with it, or if you do get a much lower calorie toast, like some of the like Dave's Killer Bread, that's very fibrous, that'll be extremely filling. And
it's delicious.
Yeah, pretty dang good too. That goes a long way. There's like one protein-based cereal that's like, if you have to have a cereal, that'll be something at least. Not the best out of all the options. There's also overnight oats that you might find in that recipe, and in like the Just You Fitness app. If you go to like the fork and knife tab, so if this is your phone, bottom right corner fork and knife tab, go to the breakfast section. There's a little white circle with like 2 arrows to replace whatever options there. Click on that. Just search like oats or like smoothie. Either of those will come up with a ton of suggestions for you. That'll be great. Again, I've heard, I think, a review of one recipe in the entirety of the app. So most of the recipes are absolute bangers. So, because for me, the problem I run into is that it's just hard for me to eat too much in the morning. So I like lighter stuff. So something like a Greek yogurt can go a really long way, a smoothie, or like a light amount of like overnight oats that we don't even have to prep anything beforehand. Obviously, also too, if I'm like on the go or something, or really not wanting to feel too full, just like a protein shake is fine too. So all those would be both convenient and help a ton. And you'll notice the difference when you start the day at 40 grams of protein versus it's 2 p.m. and you've had like 6 grams of protein. So different. You don't feel behind, and also your blood sugar levels are going to be far more consistent than if you had something that's like super carby, super sugary. So you're not going to have as much of a crash. Your energy levels will be consistent. They've even done studies that people who have a higher fat and higher protein breakfast actually have reduced anxiety levels throughout the day too, because you experience other physiology effects of like high blood pressure and low sugar crashes, you experience those psychologically too. And so I just can't stress enough how great it is to start the day good on that track. But yes, that's the meal that 99% of my clients have the most difficulty with.
I'll take protein bars, or I'll take a protein bar with me too. And if it's going to be longer before I get home, I'll take like a shake and a protein bar just to cover it.
Yeah.
There's
What protein bar do you use, Laura?
right now, I have the Quest.
Quest. All right.
My favorite, and then there's a chocolate chip.
Interesting. I will say, I'm proud of you, Laura, though. 90% of my clients don't enjoy the Quest stuff too much.
Yeah.
Or I guess you might be one of them too.
What's the other one? Are they? Oh gosh, there was another one, but it didn't have all the fiber in it that the Quest ones do. Pure protein bars.
Oh, terrible.
The flavor.
Gag me. No. Pure protein brand is trash.
It tastes so good.
I can't. No. More power to you, but no.
The three most.
I don't eat protein bars. They gag me. And most of the time, they're so, like, in my opinion, they're like just like for the amount of calories they have, and it's just like a really bad candy bar, in my opinion.
Hey, sometimes
more power.
Sometimes a really bad candy bar hits the spot, you know.
I would rather have a Snickers. If I'm going to sit and have a candy bar, I'm just going to have a Snickers. But yes.
The three most popular brands I've had with clients, some like Quest, but they a lot tend to find it pretty chalky. The texture tends to put them off, and the aftertaste. The three most popular brands I've found of, or at least best reviews I've had from clients, are Kirkland, so like the Costco ones, Pure Protein.
I like
those
that
are pretty
too.
good. Pure Protein, and then
really,
those are the ones I get the best reviews from. Barbell is the other one from Trader Joe's. Pricier, but oh my gosh, the texture's best, flavor's the best.
But I mean, it's Trader Joe's. I haven't even had it, but I'm sure it's got to be better.
Yeah, that one.
What is it?
Highest
I
quality.
haven't tried that one.
The Barbell ones.
From Trader Joe's. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite protein bar is, Laura, flank steak.
I was gonna say or some kind of meat stick.
Ooh, yeah. So Roscoe, Gatorade, peanut butter, and chocolate.
Ooh, those are delicious. They are quite calorie dense too, though. They're about 350
But they are delicious.
20, 25 grams of protein. If you have the calories to spare, sure. A good ratio that you look for is about 200 calories, like 20, 24 grams of protein. Then it mimics something like a protein shake. But yes, those. The protein Cliff bars, not the plain ones that literally just look like oatmeal that sat out too long, like the ones that look like a protein bar. Those ones are delicious as well. They are slightly more calorie dense, but those ones I get the best reviews from as well. But yeah, love it, Roscoe. Roscoe's been killing it too, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's he done?
He's, let's see what weight he's at. First of all, he had some complications with his knee, worked around it. Still, he's like, dude, I'm going to be lifting. I'm still doing workouts, even though I can't even be walking this thing. I'm like, cool, I got you. So we made some like seated workouts for him. And then he's nutrition. Yeah. Let's see, because he started, I'm pulling up his data here, but still doing like 3 to 4 workouts a week, even with one leg that he can't pretty much put any weight on, which is amazing.
Holy smokes.
Doing his PT exercises in the off days. He is down from first weigh in 276, last weigh in 268.7.
Nice, man.
Absolutely.
That's super good.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. I have clients who, I had one who straight up broke her leg, still came in on crutches. And it's hilarious too, because the client coming in after them, they're like, what'd you do to her? I'm like, what do you mean? It wasn't me. But that's where it shows. Anytime you're feeling like, oh, I don't want to do leg day, just think about what it'd be like if you broke your leg and be like, maybe leg day's not so bad.
I'd never have to do leg day. It would be fantastic. I'm joking.
I think that's the dream.
It would be a dream come true. No, not really. I'm being funny. I hate leg.
That'd be amazing.
But I put something on my Facebook profile before we started, just for kicks and giggles. And I put something like, if you lost 8 pounds a month, how long would it take you to reach your goals? And surprisingly, So like when I was 308, it took me a year to go from 308 to 225. So that's what, like 80 pounds or something like that. I'm terrible at math. 80 pounds. So it really doesn't, like for most people, it really doesn't take that long if you have the right mindset. And that was an 8 pounds, but a lot of people are saying like 4 months, 2 months. So it's not as like if you can consistently lose, not that everybody needs to, 8 to 6 pounds a month over time, that adds up really, really, really fast. And that was kind of my point I was trying to make, so to speak, is most people aren't that far off. The longest person in there said a year so far, and that's not that long. And if you look at your entire lifespan. But anyway, I just kind of noticed that notifications are going crazy. But anyway, all right, last chance, everybody, before we turn it down and I go watch WWE Raw with my 9-year-old Axel.
It's amazing.
If not,
Noah,
then
did you
awesome.
adding something to my workout tomorrow? Starting
what?
tomorrow? Say you were
Yes.
adding. Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. I will look for it.
Okay, unless you want to wait another day, like you feeling ready?
That's okay. I'll do it.
Okay,
It'll be a good experiment because I go see Tyler at noon tomorrow. So
yes, and we'll start it light too. So don't do like 75% of what you're doing before, if that.
Okay.
And we'll just see how it feels. But yeah, that's good. To touch on one thing for Kellens before we go, because we have like 45 seconds. To know what's a healthy range of weight to lose, about 1% of your body weight per week is a good range. Anything past that, you start risking other mitigating factors, which I've gone into.
Yes.
So don't feel like if you're like 120 pounds trying to get to like 110, don't feel like you should be losing 8 pounds a month. A pound a week is excellent. In fact, it's the most.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. True story.
Yeah. So
This is just for.
yes, versus, I mean, a lot of people come in for most of the population. 70% of the US population that's over 40 is obese. So a lot of them have a lot more to lose. Yeah. So if you're like 200 something pounds, 300 pounds, you're going to be losing, 2.5, 3 pounds a week. So that's where he's getting like the 8-ish pounds from, because a lot of people on demographics start and they're losing about 2 pounds a week. But it does go to say like, yeah. And even if it takes a year, imagine if for the rest of your life you felt better, you didn't have aches and pains, you had habits, you were proud of yourself, you learned delayed gratification, like you felt stronger, you aged better, so you had a higher quality of life. If all it took was 1 year to turn that around, that's like a crazy way to think of that too. And people are like, oh, it's expensive to get a trainer, which I get it too. But think about if you did personal training for like a year, that total cost, if someone just asked you like, hey, if I charge you this much for health and happiness for the rest of your life, would you take it? You'd probably say yes. There's some hard work in between there, but that's why it's earned. So anyway, 8 o'clock. Appreciate you all.
Okay.
Amazing work. We'll see you all.
No worries, Roscoe. Thanks for the dedication, man.
Yeah.
Totally cool.
Oh yeah, no problem. Appreciate you, Roscoe. You're a champ, dude. Yeah, I'll send a medic. Awesome.
All right, see you guys
Take
on
care,
next
everyone.
Monday.
Bye.
Bye.